Alright guys, so I watched Captain Marvel about a couple nights ago, and I can rightfully confirm that Brie Larson hates white men. No, stop, I'm just kidding. Like, that whole narrative is absolutely ridiculous. Like, she's a gamer, guys. She could be trusted.
Is Brie Larson a gamer? Great question. Duh.
But I do understand that she wants a more diverse spectrum when it comes to reviews for this movie, and as a person of color, I can actually say that Captain Marvel was hot trash. Jokes. Again, like, I think it's fine. It's a decent Marvel movie that, honestly, I thought was a lot better than expected. Marvel's at a point in their movies where there's really nothing that they can do that'll convert you into a fan if you aren't one already. We're 21 movies in the MCU at this point, and it's pretty understandable if one thinks they're rinse and repeat of the same superhero formula, which arguably they kinda are. Captain Marvel is just another movie that adds to the familiar formula we're all used to seeing, with a couple of twists thrown in there, which I think is a good time to talk about some of the things that I personally didn't like in the movie coming from a standalone and universe building point of view in the MCU, because honestly, like, the good outweighed some of the bad for me. I guess it's quite obvious that no Marvel movie is complete without its bad qualities, and there's definitely some in Captain Marvel. We're introduced to their entire planet, which I saw absolute potential, because I remember a scene where Brie Larson and Jude Law are in the space train, and just the whole production design to it all was just fantastic. I thought it was cool. I wouldn't mind a whole movie where it just takes place on the Kree planet, where it just focuses completely on Captain Marvel. It was like a cross between Sakaar from Thor Ragnarok and Xandar from the first Guardians. I thought it was pretty cool. But because this movie has to take place on Earth, like, I understand, whatever. The idea of the Kree being these emotionless beings who take humor as a weakness was a pretty terrible writing choice. I'm sure they're exactly like that in the comics. In fact, I don't know shit about the Captain Marvel comics, but the MCU changes a lot of different stuff to make it fit into a movie narrative. Which, yeah, I'm judging it as a movie, not from a comic book standpoint. So, yeah, there's that I should have mentioned earlier on in the review. I didn't really give two shits about any of the Kree team that Captain Marvel was teaming up with, and honestly, I couldn't be able to name you one that isn't either Veers or Carol Danvers or Captain Marvel. You just don't care about any of these people, which also comes down to the writing, which is kind of one of the major issues of the movie. I was not a huge fan of some of the line delivery, mostly from every single character, which I have mentioned before. Like, no Marvel movie is complete without its bad qualities. Like, if I do recall, every single character from the MCU has at least one cringy moment.
The real question is, what are those?
But in Captain Marvel, I feel it was a little overboard when it comes to that particular aspect, and that's saying a lot, especially when Marvel movies are meant to be fun and cheesy. Mainly the line delivery from the Kree, just the more I think about how they executed the Kree makes me never want to see them in an MCU movie ever again. Thankfully, they were barely in the movie as compared to all the familiar faces such as Samuel L. Jackson on Earth. It's not the strongest of scripts, but like, again, guys, like, what do you expect from a Marvel movie at this point? A bit of a nitpick for some, but something I also noticed is the way that some of the action was edited. A lot of people had the same problem, and I can see exactly what they mean. There was a bit of a rough sequence towards the end where it was pretty difficult to see who was who and who was punching what. It's more of the notable scenes where it takes place. I felt within that department, the action got progressively worse based off of that technical aspect. It seemed like what certain characters are doing looked great on paper, but it all comes down to the execution of it all. And also the 90s nostalgia. Since Captain Marvel does take place in the 90s and it borrows from 90s nostalgia, because guess what, it takes place in that decade, of course there's gonna be 90s stuff in there. There's gonna be some references thrown into the mix, and I kind of get why people would get upset about it. It didn't bug me all too much, and I get the complaints, but the way that I see it, it's complementing that particular time where the story doesn't rely on them. It's just adding to Earth, if you catch my drift. Look guys, nostalgia isn't all that bad. It's just how you use it in your story, and that's totally okay. Now, all that's out of the way, I'm pretty sure it seems like I hate this movie, and I don't. I like it for what it is. I expected a Marvel movie, and I got a Marvel movie, and it was just a little bit better than expected. I'm probably going to be the only person saying this since everyone is on this hate train, weirdly enough, but Brie Larson did an excellent job as Carol Danvers in Captain Marvel. The whole criticism of her having no personality whatsoever, I found totally ridiculous. I might actually do a separate video on why she absolutely works as the lead character. I'm happy to say that Brie Larson proved me wrong. I was part of that group where I watched the trailers. I was like, she doesn't look all that great. But thankfully the movie happened, and she proved me wrong. She's a great Carol Danvers, and I'm excited to see how her character is going to evolve in future MCU movies. And of course, everyone's saying that she's got great chemistry with Samuel L. Jackson. That's all true. Everything about them is basically said by now. I was a pretty big fan of the main villain Skrull played by Ben Mendelsohn. He meets somewhere in the middle between a serious and jokey villain, but his performance balances those qualities quite well if you ask me. And there are certain character arcs that I surprisingly found very sweet, one being with Carol Danvers and her friend played by Lashana Lynch. There was a moment where I felt Lashana Lynch was giving her absolute all, and I absolutely felt what she was feeling. Not because her best friend leaves planet Earth and she becomes this all-powerful glowing lady, but because the human emotion that was brought forth, I absolutely bought it. I hope to see her in more movies. Well, maybe not like Marvel MCU movies because she's kind of a secondary character, but just movies in general. I want to see more of Lashana Lynch. This movie also threw in a couple twists for me that I honestly didn't see coming. Maybe it's because I'm an absolute moron when it comes to predicting certain plot points, which if I look back, they do seem a bit obvious. But without giving any spoilers, I hope to those who have seen Captain Marvel know what I'm talking about. It's a nice change of pace and I enjoyed it. Marvel has millions upon millions of dollars to their budget, and you can definitely see it in the visual effects, mainly with the de-aging of Samuel L. Jackson and Clark Gregg, especially Brie Larson when she goes Super Saiyan and the effects of making her hair float just like in Marvel vs. Capcom 3. It all looked fantastic, so it's not really a surprise that you go into a Marvel movie expecting this visually appealing movie, unless if you're Ant-Man and the Wasp, then absolutely go fuck yourself. And Goose the cat. It's a cat. I honestly don't give a shit. I'm a dog lover. I don't think it's an absolute scene stealer, but if you do like Goose the cat, then more power to you. So is Captain Marvel good? I think so. Does everyone have at least some valid criticisms to where they may dislike the movie? I'm sure they do. I've heard some of them, and I understand why that some things in the movie doesn't work for them, and just the movie in general, they don't find it good. While I may disagree with those people, I gave out my personal opinions. That shouldn't stop you from going out to the theater and watching this movie. If you want to watch the movie, go watch it. If you don't want to, then don't. It's simple as that. But with that being said, go see Captain Marvel. It's good. It's not great. It's a Marvel movie as you expect a Marvel movie to be. It's just a fun time with your friends and family. All right, that may be one of the more serious reviews I'll give out for quite some time. I actually do miss giving them out. Let me know in the comment section down below if you guys have seen Captain Marvel and what you guys thought of the movie in general, whether you loved it, liked it, thought it was okay, disliked it, hated it, whatever. Please let me know in the comments down below. And I'm still going for that set schedule. I know I said Mondays before, but I'm probably gonna go for Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. It just depends. I'm just trying to overwork myself kind of to the point I just want to get back into a good rhythm. And guys, thank you so much for watching my review for Captain Marvel. It means the absolute world to me, and it would also mean the absolute world to me if you click on the links right next to me to further support this channel. I really much appreciate that. And yeah, that's basically all I got for you guys. I'll see you guys next time.